One lady who lived next to us, her husband was dying, and we used to hear her wailing as she walked from her house across to our front door, and she would get us to pray for her, and she said, "The only time I feel any peace is when you pray for me." We're Becky and Graham. We have been in this church building for 22 years, and we had grown very low in numbers, and we lacked people resources, and Liberty Church was looking for a facility, and we had this beautiful facility. So Liberty adopted our little mosaic group here. We love it. We love Liberty. It is our church. I was a high school German English teacher when God really got hold of me about world missions. I went to the Congo in Central Africa, right in the very middle. No running water, no electricity, but we had a wonderful Bible school there, teaching pastors and would-be pastors and those who were going to plant churches.
By the time I was 21, I had my life mapped out. I was going to be a top stud dairy breeder until God challenged me one night about going to train to be a missionary. And I said, "Oh, Lord, I'm a quiet guy. I don't have the gift of the gab. Better send some other people." But eventually God spoke to me through Psalm 73, verse 26, which says, "Though your flesh and your heart fails, God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever." One of the things that I felt coming back was seemed to be a vacuum because we had no contact with our neighbours. They drove into the garage and walked upstairs into the house.
I think it's being intentional about being a good neighbour, but it starts with hello. It starts with just a hello. We're Becky and Graham. We live up the street. If you need anything, please come, or you need help or something, please come and visit us. And that has opened up doors for people to come.
On my 5:30 a.m. morning walk, I kept on bumping into John, and he kept on asking me questions about Ghana. And I said, "Well, John, are you a reader? I've written my life story, and I wonder if you'd like to read about it." The next time I met him, he said, I couldn't help myself. I finished the book. He said it was amazing. And from that it led to growing relationship, onto inviting both he and his wife, who was from PNG, to come to Christmas services. John came to know the Lord, and still 10 years later comes to my men's coffee group on a Friday morning, and he's solidly committed to following Jesus.
One lady who lived next to us, her husband was dying, and we used to hear her wailing as she walked from her house across to our front door, and she would get us to pray for her, and she said, "The only time I feel any peace is when you pray for me." And she ended up coming here to church, and she put up a hand to follow Jesus. It starts with a hello.
So we know all our neighbours, our immediate neighbours. We have good friends, good connections with them. They have differing beliefs, but they know ours, and we've had talks with them about who Jesus is and what he's done for us and why we were missionaries. Looking out for the opportunities, not necessarily to preach a sermon to them, but just to show acts of kindness, to show that we care, that we love. Oftentimes neighbours come and go, but it could be a link in the chain that somebody else will build on and eventually lead to a person coming to know the Lord.